Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Nze omubejjalu wedde Lilian mbaniriza maka gaffe amajja era nga wano wetugenda okubanga tukolera programu yaffe emanyiddwa nga The Voltage gaba masanyalaze gennyini era nga twogera ku bintu ebyenjawulo omwo mwe muli ebigenda mu maaso mu ggwanga, ensonga z'ebyobufuzi n'obukulembeze bw'eggwanga Uganda, twogera ku nsonga ez'abavubuka, eddembe ly'obuntu awamu n'ebyenkulaakulana. Togisubwa buli lunaku olwokutaano eba ssaawa emu ey'akawungeezi paka ssaawa 3 ez'ekiro.
The Diaspora Link buli lwakuna sawa 11 paka sawa emu ey'olweggulo ye program gye tukuleetedde wano ku Alternative Digital Uganda. Tugenda batutunulira embeera z'Abannayuganda baganda baffe bannyinaffe zibawangaaliramu mu mawanga ag'ebunaayira. Bangi banyigirizibwa, bangi bakosebwa, bangi bayisiddwamu amaaso. Naye tugenda batutunulira engeri gye tusobola okulongosaamu embeera zaabwe. Tugenda kuba tulaba abo abakwatibwako abateekeddwa okuba nga balongoosa embeera zino eno. Tosubwa buli lwakuna n'omuweerezaawo Nixon Segawa.
Hello everyone, my name is Abdulatif and I welcome you to the Hotline Show here at the Alternative Dig Talk as we discuss issues of national importance. Join us every Monday 7 to 9 p.m. and see who will be occupying these seats here with us. Keep it Dig Talk, real issues, real talk.
Hey Ugandans, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Dewa Kiki, the Deputy Defense Spokesperson and actually the Deputy Spokesperson for the Uganda People's Defense Forces. I was hosted on Alternative Dig Talk. I encourage all Ugandans that this is the way to go. Always watch, participate, give your views and ask questions on Alternative Dig Talk. Dig Talk, the way to go.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Yes, good morning Uganda. Welcome to this edition of the Mighty Drive. I am Edgar Matthew Karuhanga and I'm serving you yet again in another interesting, insightful, exciting, thrilling Mighty Drive show episode, and that is today. I'm saying it is the 4th day of January 2022 mbade natero gamba 2021 no tuli mu mwaka mupya enakuzwa mwezi nya omwezi gwa gatonya omwaka 2022 njagala nnyo okwaniriza buli omu atuwegaseeko olunaku olwaleero machamalungi. It's a cold morning okuva wano erukuli nanganda awali amakaga the Alternative Dig Talk era osobola okuba nga otwegattako entakera essaawa yonna gy'olyanga yeeyo osobola okuba nga otwegattako nojja n'otulabako wano Makindye Rukuli Nanganda Konge waliwo awali Kawota Pump, so opposite Kawota Pump oba olaba akapande akaliko kye bayita Sewagudde Close ku gate esookera ddala gate ya black oba osobola okusangaawo omukutu guno ogwa the Alternative Digital. Katera ne obo yagala kubanga okwatagana ne the Alternative Uganda ekisinde ekyo ekiruubirirwa okubanga kikyusa obuyinza mu ggwanga lino mu ngeri y'emirembe. The Alternative Uganda osobola okubanga otwegattako awo wennyini. Manya gange nze Edgar Matthew Karuhanga okubanga nkuweereza olunaku olwaleero era kyassanyu nnyo okubanga onegaseeko nga nange nkulabako. Njagala okutumirako omukulu Mugisha Jime webale kubanga olaba ava kusirika ka message kano nagamba yekwali Mugisha Jime webale kubanga otugoberera. Mugisha Jime nayagala kubanga ajja wali ku sentendekero wa Kampala University nga Guild President oba omukulembeze w'abayizi omwaka gwa 2022-2023. Roadmap yagambye yafulumye dda era tujja kulaba engeri gye tusobola okubanga tufuna omukulu oyo Mugisha Jime asooka atubulye ssettendekero wa Kampala University kiki ekyamaanyi kyayagala okukola abalala kye batannakola bangi ababadde mu ntebe eyo yennyini naye bangi n'abalemeddwa okuba nga bakola ebyabannaggwano. Mugisha Jimmy gw'olina kyanjawulo ki ekyogamba mbu nno kino eri abayizi ba Kampala University oba ssettendekero wa Kampala University n'eggwanga lyonna nja kuba mbakolera kino na kino. So mweneyaza nnyo Mugisha Jimmy okubanga olabako kabadde kabayithawe na buli omu nno eyetukuumidde ku mukutu guno ogwa The Alternative Digitalk oba The Alternative Uganda wetuli wano ku page yaffe. Mwenna abagala okutugoberera ku YouTube kwetuli, ku Instagram kwetuli, ku Facebook kwetuli wonna at The Alternative Uganda ne ku TikTok no mpola mpola gye tuli eyo okubanga tuweereza bannayuganda. Twabagamba we are redefining the social media narrative. Kyekyo kyennyini kyetugezaako okubanga tukola buli lunaku okuva ku Monday paka Friday kuva ssaawa emu ez'okumakya paka ssaawa 3 tubeera wano nga tunyumyamu emboozi naawe. Bantu no tulina show nnyingi nno ezibeera ku mukutu guno. Kanzitemu lukwakwayo tulina hotline yabadde olunaku lw'eggulo weerayo olunaku lwa Monday kuva ssaawa mpaka ssaawa 3 ez'akawungeezi. Tulina diaspora link ebeerayo ku lunaku lwakuna essaawa 10 mpaka 12. Tulina the voltage agaba amasanyalaze gennyini n'omukyala Lilian Luwedde ku lunaku lwakutaano kuva ssaawa emu paka ssaawa 3 ez'akawungeezi. Then Snap Talk Show aweyingirirawo kunaku lwa mukaaga ssaawa 12 paka ssaawa emu. Then ku Sunday tulina eriiso ly'omukulu libeerayo ssaawa 10 mpaka 12 ez'akawungeezi. Osobola okubanga otwegatako ne tulaba engeri gye tukulaakulanyamu eggwanga 2022. It's a new year, new resolutions and of course new goals and new service from the Alternative Digitalk. Ladies and gentlemen, tugende mu mawulire agabadde gatambula. Mawulire nno mangi nnyo agagenda mu maaso mu ggwanga. Kakwanza Rukirabasajja namubagambyeko olunaku lw'eggulo. No, he's an author, he's a playwright, he's an orator, he is a literature scholar. Muntu muwandiisi wa butabo omwami Kakwanza Rukirabasajja. No, omwami ono yakwatibwa wiki ewedde olunaku lwali lwa Monday. Balaza kati amaze sabbiiti nnamba ng'ali mabega wa mitayimbwa. Bigambo bingi ebibadde byogerwa eri omukulu ono Kakwanza Rukirabasajja nga bagamba nno bintu bingi byabadde byakola kuwandika ku gavumenti ku farming nga omanyi okubanga owandiika ebintu ebiri satirical. Omwami satirical awandika ebintu ebisesa abantu obanga bintu binyumu naye nga abiwandiika nga awandika a serious piece like you are writing something serious but in a witty way. Awandika ebiba bigenda mu maaso nga yena bagambye mu katabo ka The Greedy Barbarian. Awandika story ya corruption mu ggwanga lino naye nga ate agifudde satirical obanga agifuula ey'okusaagasaaga naye ate omuntu abanga oli musomi oba otegeera ki kyaba ategeeza. Abantu abavuddeyo ab'enjawulo omuli ba students, omuli ba advocates, omuli ba activists abavuddeyo nnyo nga baali mu kulaga obutali bumativu era hashtag ya Kakwanza yebadde etambula wali ku mukutu ogwa Twitter. Omwami ono ng'abantu bangi bagamba poliisi ebadde oba abakuuma ddembe kwaswa kiteeka ku poliisi abakuuma ddembe balina okubanga bamutanga bagamba omwami ono talina musango. Jjukira omwami Kakwanza Rukirabasajja akwatiddwa kati guno mulundi gugenda kubanga gwakusatu kwa last year. In fact last year bamukwata emirundi ebiri mu mwezi gwali gwa September n'omwezi omulala ogwa April. Omwami oyo yaliyo mabega w'emutayimbwa. Ebigambo nno ebyogerwa Council Aaron Kiza onono ye Council akulembedde musango gw'omwami Kakwanza Rukirabasajja. Twamwinako nno wano Council Aaron Kiza oba oyagala kulaba episode eyo ku YouTube kweri osobola ogenda n'oginoonya. Aaron Kiza atugambye oba yafulumiza ebigambibwa wadde tetubikakasa it is alleged nti omwami Kakwanza Rukirabasajja yadde n'asesema musaayi wadde bamutambuza okubanga bakebera amaka ge nga omanyi security oyinza okuba olinayo ebintu byakkiriza nti nno bujulizi ate buli woso bagenza okubanga bamutwala ewuwe. Council Aaron Kiza yatugambye nti omwami ono abadde asesema musaayi so embeera gy'abadde alimu ebadde si nnungi nnyo. Omwami ono Kakwanza alaze mbu ye tagenda kubanga backing down, agenda kubanga asigala awandiika obutabo era jjukira bwe baamuta omwaka oguwedde mu September akatabo yali akakomawo mu October n'afulumya akatabo ekyo kye bayita n'amaanyi g'okuwandiika nti ye ebigambo bibeera eva ku mutwe yatula butuuzi wansi n'agamba kati omanyi katuwandiika kino. Eno ye mwami Kakwanza Rukirabasajja musajja takkiriza nnyo mu gavumenti eno n'omukulu Yoweri Kaguta Tibabulwa Museveni ne mutabani we Muhoozi Kainerugaba. Yawandiika n'akatabo nga yakava mu komera iranga kali about corruption mu ggwanga lino erya Uganda nga yakafuluma bwati. In fact yayogera kutocha experiences ze yayitamu ng'ali mu komera right there we bali bamuchunyiza oba we bali bamusibidde mu mbeera eyo etaali nungamu. Akatabo ke yawandiika bakayita The Banana Republic. Yes, ke yafulumya ng'ayogera ku kikyosanga wano mu gye bayita Banana Republic oba Amatooke Republic nga Uganda webatera okubanga bagiyita eddakiika ziri 10 zizakayita ku ssaawa emu ey'okumakya. Tufulume oba tusooke tugaleko wano mu ggwanga. Uganda etandise okubanga efuna cases nyingi eza ekirwadde ekipya ekyalumimba mawuggwe Omicron variant ekyo kye bayita COVID-19. No COVID-19 yatujjira twasooka okufuna omulwadde waffe yasooka zaali ennaku z'omwezi 10 zaali ennaku z'omwezi 21 omwezi gwali gwa March omwaka gwali 22. That was the first time we got our first case. Okuva etwafuna case yaffe yasookera ddala back then obulamu tewasigala kyekimu. Tuwadde tulooza twakalinyeeko ku nfeete naye kyewuunyisa nti after a long turmoil ate kati cases zitandise okubanga zeeyongera. Kirwadde kino ekya Omicron oba ekya COVID-19 Omicron variant kitandise okubanga kyerabisa nti wali ba travelers tuwadde tufuna bangi ku border ya Kenya ne Uganda bafunye cases mu nnaku nga 3 ezisembyeyo. Cases ziculminating into case 1900 new infections za COVID-19 zeziri wali era kati government etaddewo kye bayise mandatory testing ku border ya Uganda ne Kenya okubanga bakebera buli muntu nno ayingira na buli afuluma togenda kubanga oyingira ggwanga nga teweekebeza kino kirwadde ekya lumima mawuggwe. Byebimu ku bifaananyi ebya border wali okubanga oyitawo abo nno ba Kenyan passengers and drivers and truck drivers bibadde basinga okubanga bali awo bagezaako okubanga babakebera ekirwadde kya COVID-19 balabe nti nno toyingira ggwanga bw'oba toli safe and sound. Tuveeko awo tugendeko wabweru w'eggwanga. Bingi ebigenda mu maaso mu East Africa mu Africa anti president asiba tugamba mwoyo gwa Africa, mwoyo gwa Uganda, mwoyo gwa East Africa, mwoyo gwa Africa. Zezo empaji esatu abakulu ze bajjirako mu 1986 paka nno saawa zino omukulu Tibwabulwa advocating for wa mwoyo gwa Uganda, mwoyo wa East Africa, mwoyo wa Africa. Tuyokeregereko mu East Africa. Kenya si birungi abantu 6 battiddwa nga battibwa aba Al-Shabaab. Abatujju ba Al-Shabaab no beefuula ekirala mu ggwanga lya Kenya okuva Kenya we yasindika troops zaayo mu ggwanga lino ya Somalia okubanga bakola peacekeeping mu 2011. Bagamba kati mwefuulamu abalwanizi ba eddembe ne peace kye tugenda okukola naffe katandika okubanga tubalumba. Omwejo emyaka 11 egibadde gitambula kuba kati muno gugenda kubeera mwaka gwa 11 okuva Al-Shabaab bwe yatandika okubanga eyisa bubi abo aba Kenya. Saba Al-Shabaab n'amagye gaabwe bassa abantu 6 abamu ku 5 babatiddewo on sport. Omu bamusazeeko omutwe mu ggwanga eryo nno erya Kenya. Kyannaku era olaba bamukwata mundu abo beeyita ba Al-Shabaab ba terrorists. Jjukira ebintu bino nno byewuunyisa nti omuntu gw'oyita terrorist waliwo amuyita omulwanyizi w'eddembe. Ate kati that is the funny bit of life. Nti kati abo bo bagamba balwanizi baddembe olaba balabanga balwanizi beddembe naye ate abantu abasinga ate babalabanga batujju okubanga batega bomu ne zita bannayuganda batega bomu mu Kenya omwo eyatta abantu abaali abanje nnyo era ne mu Uganda wano baali bakitukozeeko mujjukira omwaka gwali gwa 2010. Omwaka gwali gwa 2010 naffe baatulumbako wano abantu 74 be baafiira awo mu World Cup. Ndoza mujjukira as soon as Andreas Iniesta bwe yakuba winning goal wali mu kisaawe oba mu mupiira ogwa World Cup bali bazanya Netherlands. Ndo mupiira ogwo ngujjukira vividly. Goal bali bakagikuba we bati aba Spain nga Andres Iniesta agikuba abasajja aba Netherlands mu dakiika yali esembayo mu extra time. Bomu weto we yabalukira wali Echaddondo ne Kabalagala wano ku Ethiopian village. Abantu abakunukiriza abantu 74 mu mwaka ogwo gwa 2010 be baafiirwa obulamu bwabwe. Al-Shabaab tekomye kutigomya ffe etigomeza Kenya etigomeza Somalia jesinga okuteeka amakanda oba jesinza okubanga eteeka amakanda era paka saawa zino abantu nno bajeeko kola bweko koza abantu 6 olunaku lw'eggulo be bafiiridde mu njege eno oba mu bbomu zino zinnamuzisa. Olunaku olwaleero tugenda kuba twegattibwako omulwanyizi w'eddembe oba a human rights defender excuse me, omwami we bamuyita Nabuyanda John Solomon. Nabuyanda John Solomon is a human rights defender. Agenda kuba twegattako wana babuli enno biki eby'amaanyi byasinga okubanga ategeera. Tugendera kuba nga twogera ku katabo kano ak'omukulu Dr. George Wilson Kanyeihamba bakayita the defeat of President Museveni. Kekana katabo ketugenda okubanga twogerako olunaku olwaleero. Omwami yakawandiika, mwami asomye ebitabo ebiwera, omwami George Wilson Kanyeihamba. Twagala omukulu ono asooka akatuyikizemu tusooke tulabe biki bino bye bagamba President Museveni bagenda okukozesa okubanga bamudefeatinga. Is it actually achievable? Ate twogeko ne state of human rights mu ggwanga lino okuva mu mwaka 2021. Tulabe a lot of human rights evasions mu 2021 ne mu 2022 naye where are we today? Security and the police are the biggest perpetrators of human rights violences and evasions in this country. How best can we actually change this narrative come 2022? How best do we protect the human rights of each individual, each Ugandan? Because as a minimum of you being a human being, there are some rights that you're supposed to enjoy by the mere fact that you are a human being. How best do we protect those human rights? So mwami Nabuyanda agenda kuba negattako wano n'omukyala Farida Bikobere tubenga tunyumyamu mu ngeri yawo. Tuddukeko mu Sudan. Wali mu Sudan, Sudan gye njogerako yeeyo eya Khartoum eyo erimu abawalabu bagita Northern Sudan. Yes, eyo yennyini gye twagala okubanga twogerako. Protests zeeyongedde okubanga zigenda mu maaso mu ggwanga lino erya Sudan. Okwekalakaasa kweyongedde okubanga kugenda mu maaso right there, nga bagamba omukulu Hamdok abadde prime minister yasazeewo okubanga nno resigning obanga ava mu ntebe, naye abantu bagamba ate lwaki abalina okugenda. Jjukira okuva I think last year omusajja bajjako omusajja yali president yali na kyemalire yabafuga emyaka 4 egikunukiriza mu myaka 29 asatu okuva ebamujjawo omwami oyo paka sawa zino obutebenkevu bukyaganye okubanga budda mu ggwanga lino erya Northern Sudan oba Sudan ey'omu mambuka. Okwekalakasa kubaddewo ne bakyusa gavumenti, ate kati bannamagye ne balyoka bawamba prime minister Hamdok, ate kati bamuzizza mu buyinza, ate abantu bagamba ate lwaki resigninze, mwina kye mwamukoze, kwegamba bintu bingi ebigenda maaso mu ggwanga erya South Sudan. Ngaye mulaba nno ebifaananyi ebyo bino biri fresh. Lunaku lwabadde lwoba lwa 31 beekalakaasa, ate bazzeemu ne muguno omwaka gwennyini ne beekalakaasa bagamba bakooye okufugwa bannamagye, naye era ne bannamagye bagambe togenda kubanga nawe togenda tunyigira mu ttooke. Mu kwekalakaasa kuno abantu babiri be battiddwa on spot, omu bamukubye essasi ku mutwe n'afiirawo, era omulala yafunye era gun wound problems ez'oku mutwe ezamuleetedde okubanga bleedinga paka bwe yavudde mu bulamu bw'ensi. W'obalamu okuva okwekalakaasa kuno we kwatandika, abantu 56 be bakafiirwa obulamu bwabwe, ate abantu abali mu 10 n'ebikumi be bafunye injuries mu kwekalakaasa kuno okw'eggwanga lino erya Sudan. Katulinde tulabe kiki ekinaba kigenda mu maaso mu ggwanga lino erya Sudan. Tuddukeko e South Africa. South Africa bingi ebigenda mu maaso. Bafunyeyo suspect omu eyabadde mabega wa omuliro guno. Ate nno waliwo amawulire gembadde nfuna ku makya kuno nti kyayeka omuliro guno gwazzeemu ne guddamu gwazzeemu okubanga guteta. Waliwo amawulire gembadde mpulira nti gwazzeemu naye ate tetugakakasa bulungi, naye ng'ate omu ku bantu be badde basuubiriza okubanga be bayokyezza palamenti ya South Africa yakwatiddwa. Tebannaba kwogera mannya ge era tebannaba nakumulaga bifaananyi bye. We tunaagafuna tujja kubanga tubagamba mbagirawo nga tubagamba nti yoyo obanga tumubalaga ebifaananyi bye wano ku the alternative Uganda. So omuntu yabadde mabega w'okwokya oba omu ku abo abadde mabega w'omuliro ogwabadde ku palamenti ye South Africa yakwatiddwa olunaku lwabadde lwaggulo, naye wabadde bigambibwa nti tuyina waliwo bibadde bigambibwa nti waliwo omuliro gwazzeemu ne gukwata. Mbadde naakabifuna wano amakya ga leero nti nno omuliro gwazzeemu ne gukwata parliament ya South Africa naye sinnabikakasa so ebyo tubitwalenga just a hearsay because we're actually not sure of what exactly is going on in South Africa right about now. Olunaku lw'enkya by the way tugenda kubeera n'omwami bamuyita Council Aaron Kiza ni mbadde nakamwogerako ne bansindika ka message wano ne bangamba olunaku lw'enkya agenda kuba twegattako wano ku Mighty Drive era ajja kuba n'omukyala Lilian n'omukyala Farida nange kenyini tujja kubeera wano tulabe engeri gye tunyumyamu naye olunaku olw'enkya. Council Aaron Kiza mwali mu kizimbe era ebintu bye tugenda okuba nga tuteekako nnyo essira kwe kumubuuza mukama wange kiki ekigenda mu maaso mu musango ogwa Rukira Basajja Kakwanza n'omwami Luther Ferdinand paka sawa zino Luther Ferdinand eyakwatibwa mu mwezi ogwokubiri omwaka oguwedde akyali mabega wa mitayimbwa awatali any justification tewali kintu kyonna kigambibwa nti no oba guno gwe musango ogwamu kamuvi oba omusango gwe yakola gwali unconstitutional ekintu n'amenya amateeka paka sawa zino tetumanyi kigenda maaso ku mwami Luther Ferdinand. So olunaku lw'enkya tugenda kubeera n'omwami Council Aaron Kiza agenda kuba tugattako wano ku mukutugo ogwa The Mighty Drive. Twabasuubiza okuba nno nga tuba tufunira abantu abalimu ensa abantu bwe mwetaaga okuba nga muwuliza okuva gye bali. What exactly do they have to tell the country? People who are of great importance and of great value to this continent. So tugenda kubeera n'omwami oyo Council Aaron Kiza olunaku lw'enkya. Yo roadmap y'okufulumya roadmap y'okuza abaana ku ssomero yafulumye era Ministry of Education yagifulumiza abaana amasomero gagenda kuggulwa okuva ku lunaku olwa Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Naye abaana bagenda kubanga basuubirwa okureportinga both boarding and day bagenda okusuubirwa okubanga bareportinga ku lunaku olwa Monday ennaku z'omwezi 10 omwezi ogwa Gatonnya omwaka 2022 ye Monday eno ejja. So abazadde bonna gye muli mugira mugenda mu maaso kubanga kino tekigenda kubeera nnyo kyangu. Ndowooza tumalirize ne bail reforms zikyaganye. President Museveni abadde ayagala okuba nga akwata mu constitution okubanga bajjawo akawaayire ak'okufuna bail on capital offences nti osse muntu nti okose omusango omunene bail abatajja kunyumira bulungi naye okuva we yaleeta endowooza eyo bantu bangi abatagikkiririzaamu omwali ne Chief Justice yennyini Alfonso Owiny Dollo. So President Museveni mu lulimi olw'ekivubuka tugamba ennaku zino kirabika ekintu kyamutuulamu and I remember telling someone you can be a leader but you cannot fight a system that has been there for years and years that will also be there even when you are gone. Nti bail okufuna a bail kintu it is like a universal law nti ensi yonna ekifollowing ekya bail. So mu njogera eyo bail ekyokujjako bail kikyaganye era Chief Justice ne President Museveni tebalina ddiiru yonna gye baakoze okubanga bajjawo kana akawaayiro mu ssemateeka. Ndowooza bannaye katukomaawo ku lwakadde kuba ndaba eddakiika ziri 22 ze zaakayita ku ssaawa emu ey'okumakya. Muzikirize mpumulemu katono we tukomawo tugenda beera n'omwami Nabuyanda tugenda tandika kubanga twogerako the state of human rights in this country naye kennyini omwami oyo atubuulire biki byennyini byakola era twogere ku kana akatabo The Defeat of President Museveni by George Kanyeihamba. Is this actually achievable? That and much more is what you should expect in this edition of The Mighty Drive Show. Let's go in for a short commercial break. When we come back, The Mighty Drive continues. Good morning.
Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Nze omubejjalu wedde Lilian mbaniriza maka gaffe amajja era nga wano wetugenda okuba nga tukolera programu yaffe emanyiddwa nga The Voltage. The Voltage gaba masannyalaze gennyini era nga twogera ku bintu eby'enjawulo omwo nno mwe muli ebigenda mu maaso mu ggwanga, ensonga z'ebyobufuzi n'obukulembeze bw'eggwanga Uganda, twogera ku nsonga ez'abavubuka, eddembe ly'obuntu awamu n'ebyenkulaakulana. Togisubwa buli lunaku olwokutaano eba ssaawa emu ey'akawungeezi paka ssaawa 3 ez'ekiro.
The Diaspora Link buli lwakuna sawa 11 paka sawa emu eyoreggulo ye program gye tukuleetedde wano ku Alternative Digital Uganda. Tugenda batutunulira embeera z'Abannayuganda baganda baffe bannyinaffe zibawangaaliramu mu mawanga ag'ebunaayira. Bangi banyigirizibwa, bangi bakosebwa, bangi bayisiddwamu amaaso. Naye tugenda batutunulira engeri gye tusobola okulongosaamu embeera zaabwe. Tugenda kuba tulaba abo abakwatibwako abateekeddwa okuba nga balongoosa embeera zino eno. Tosubwa buli lwakuna n'omuweerezaawo Nixon Segawa.
Hello everyone, my name is Abdulatif and I welcome you to the Hotline Show here at the Alternative Dig Talk as we discuss issues of national importance. Join us every Monday 7 to 9 p.m. and see who will be occupying these seats here with us. Keep it Dig Talk, real issues, real talk.
Hey Ugandans, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Dewa Kiki, the Deputy Defense Spokesperson and actually the Deputy Spokesperson for the Uganda People's Defense Forces. I was hosted on Alternative Dig Talk. I encourage all Ugandans that this is the way to go. Always watch, participate, give your views and ask questions on Alternative Dig Talk. Dig Talk, the way to go.
Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
We are in the first hour of the night. My name is HRD. I have the honor and privilege of being joined by Miss President Museveni, who is an alleged princess of Bunyoro, and she is a magistrate. Apologies for that challenge. We are so sorry. But as I was saying, I have been joined by a princess of Bunyoro who does not speak that language, by the way, just for clarity and emphasis for our viewers. She is called Farida Wikobere. Farida Oliota. Mpakuyo ni wo. Nobia, Farida Nabia. But it's okay. It's okay. Farida is my co-host today. I always like it when Farida is in studios. Muza kuwa viewers wa folna kulwalero.
Viewers abatulabyo nakulwalero njagala okubala musako. Let me hope you're good. It is a new year. Banange tujiyingire ne positive energy. We are dropping off negative energy of 2021. Ebirwadde bye walina, let it stop in 2021. Twejanjabe tuyingira omwaka ompya nga tuli balamu ate tunoonye ssente. Obulamu bwe bugaga kyovola bankisosezza and then tunoonye essente because awatali ssente munange teri agenda kwagala ne bagamba mbu omwavu ayagalwa nnyina ne maama wunga naye abagagga abalinamu kasente gwe bakuleetanga secondary bakugamba ye gwe emirimu gyo mu nsi muno gyabula era gwe gyo gye gyabula lwaki gyabala gyo girabika
gundi soko otuuleko
tuula wammayi we saying because soko otuuleko omanyi olina olugezigezi lungi because toyina ssente naye oba oyina ssente
bakulinda nokulina meeting edigo etanatuuka katumulinde tulabe
tulabe nga tetunnasalawo tulabe tuwulirize ye kyagamba ki. Our quote of the day is we are opening a new book. That means we're opening a new year. It has 365 pages and all those pages are blank. The book is called The Opportunity and its first chapter is called A New Year, New Year's Day. So twatandise dda, today is 4th. What have you done? Okyali waka webase mbo mukyali mu holiday. Obudde bwatandise dda ffe omwaka gwatandise dda okubala ffe tuba tubala nti New Year's tukole New Year's resolution twali tumaliriza omwaka oguwedde twabaleetera financial trainer ng'ababuulira how to plan a financial plan. Munange tuli mwaka mpya, you should be doing your financial plan of the year and setting goals and how you will achieve those goals, because togenda kusettinga your financial plan in August ejja kuba tekuyamba, omwaka guba gwatambudde dda. Set your goals now and set plans on how to achieve those goals. Bw'oba tosettinze plan gwo omwaka gugenda kukuyitamu nga buli omulala bwe gakuyitamu. I saw a quote nga abantu bagamba mbu agamba akasente ka December tekalwa, you didn't have money even in October, even in September, leka kwekwasa December. I was like, yeah, he's speaking sense. So tukole sente and tuyiga okusavinga. Oba yadde akasente ofuna katono mitwalo 10, yiga okusavinga kimu ky'ekkumi of your salary. Kimu ky'ekkumi of your salary mitwalo 10 is mutwalo. Kimu ky'ekkumi of mutwalo is nusulu 10. Tusobola okusavinga akasente akatono ako. Olaba nga office zaawe zisoba mu kimu ky'ekkumi savinga. Obuzibu bwe tuyina nti twagala ze tuterese after spending. As if he say was to saving, you have to first remove as of saving, then no sasanya. Umalo sasanya no verango China adding. I
think I must, by the way, what you said is true. We are typical Africans that after spending, that's when you go, hey,
can't save. When you get the money, or kumi of your salary and then keep or save, then you spend.
I think of our mala. Erinnya lichambuzo naye yagambye mbu mwaka gugwa mulemi yagambye this year has started on a bad note, let's wait for 2023. 4 days into the year and you're waiting for 2023.
It has started on a bad note and he has already given up.
Yes, and the guy is saying, you know what,
we are waiting for 2023.
I'm like, the check
it is too early to give up.
But let's welcome our guest of the day. The gentleman is called Mr. Nabuyanda John Solomon, and he is a human rights defender. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Welcome to the Mighty Drive.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here once again.
Wow, okay.
Last week I was here with Farida.
Yeah.
I'm privileged to be hosting you this time around. I didn't get the opportunity of hosting you last week. And maybe you just speak your mind. How are you?
Well, first of all, I am happy that dates and time have changed from 2021 to 2022.
Yeah.
But the status quo of our nation has not yet changed. Gross violations of human rights. A case in point is my brother Kakwanza. And corruption at its gross, abuse of office and misuse of power by the junta in Uganda.
Oh, the big words, junta. Are you sure of what you're saying?
Who is the junta here?
Well, in a state where you cannot freely exercise your right, and we ratify laws as Uganda, our constitution is very clear in Article 20 that human rights are inherent and coherent. They are not granted by anybody.
I was speaking about that today morning with Badempa updates. That there are some rights you have by the mere fact of you being a human being.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But in a state where you exercise your rights and they are limited or checked by the gun or intimidations by the gun, it is so imperative that we note that it's business unusual. 2022 is going to be business unusual.
When you say business unusual, what do you mean, Mr. Nabuyanda?
What I mean that by business unusual is, one is we are going to change the tactics and methods of work. We've gotten the opportunity to go to 2020, the quote Farida has been reading. And we've started the first page on 1st January.
Yes.
It's absurd that 2020, 2021 have been years of gross
Human rights violations.
Human rights violations. And they are years that shall forever be held in history as turbulent years for human rights in Uganda.
Yes, sir.
In Uganda. And it's absurd that we completed the year with human rights violations.
Just to inform you, Mr. Nabuyanda, the 50 lives that we lost, over 50 lives, let me be even more accurate. Over 50 lives we lost in November 2020 up to now. These people have not yet got justice. Nobody has been apprehended up to now. Yet over 50 people lost their lives on November 19th and 18th. That was in 2020, prior to the elections we had last year.
Well, to answer that, I have here a post.
Yes, sir.
I think it was posted by the NBS, quoting the Human Rights Commission.
Yes,
and this is what the Human Rights Commission has to say. The Uganda Human Rights Commission has cautioned individuals trying to tarnish the image of security agencies by portraying them as the leading human rights abusers. The Uganda Human Rights Commission chairperson Maria Mwangadia reveals a group of people is on a mission to discredit security and other government agencies.
Government security tujuwaiza.
Absolutely. If Human Rights Commission today can come out and condone
security operatives and their actions. Who hasn't seen, who didn't see November 2021?
But what were you expecting from the chairman of the Human Rights Commission? Because those people are just selected to be put there, they do not qualify. Someone just selects
That's a very big statement.
Yeah.
Well, how do you say they don't qualify? Why do you say they don't qualify?
It's not like you are qualifying Edgar to be here, you bring your papers on all that kind of stuff.
Really?
Someone will select you to be the head of the Human Rights Commission. Remember, that position has been vacant for some years.
Yeah,
and then the president was like, okay, I think I need to
it's
select someone to be the head.
You guys, I want us to be clear about this. It's the constitution that gives the president the power to appoint the leaders
Edgar,
in the Human
if
Rights Commission.
you select me and put me in a position, that means I am going to serve your interests.
But the predecessor was doing his job before he passed on. May his soul rest in peace.
What was he doing exactly?
We've seen him advocating for people. We've seen him go down to the
We've seen them write statements. We've seen them say those statements, but we have not seen them take action anywhere.
Okay.
Well,
yes, sir.
It's important that we look at our history. Because if we don't know our past, we can't determine our present.
Okay, peruse us through our history.
We can't determine our future. When you look at our history,
yes, sir.
Museveni, General Museveni, I call him General Museveni.
For us here, we call him the president.
He's one. He's the president. He's the general.
He's the president.
Well, Uganda is not run as a country. It's run as a military mission. Actually, I think Shuja is in Uganda since 1986. Papa John babutwalako e Congo ne Somalia. Naye nga command center ya General Museveni mu mission Shuja yatandikira wano mu 1986.
Yes, sir.
When you look at part of the reasons that took Museveni to the bush, corruption is one of them. Violation of human rights was also part of them.
Yeah.
And when he came into power, he brings systems to check these human rights violations and corruption. Museveni chooses to bring the Human Rights Commission. It did not exist in our history. It's introduced by President Museveni and the 1995 Constitution, which has merely turned into a notebook.
But which was valid for him to
set
up the Uganda Human Rights Commission.
It was valid. And it is not true. It is not true that we do not have credible people or competent people to sit in these offices. Yes. The NRM government has part of the most and some of the intelligent people of that generation. But power corrupts absolutely. Power has corrupted these individuals. When I looked at the statement of Wangadia condoning human rights violations, I was not surprised.
Why?
It is the order of the day in Uganda today. People complained about what happened in Kayunga. But we've never had an election. What happened in Kayunga?
Happens every day.
Happens every day. And happens everywhere. During elections in Uganda. Look at Hoima, where Tanga Odoi openly holds a stick.
To put people to order.
No. Really? They caned people. People ended up in hospitals. Their crime is to exercise their right to vote. Go to Arua, where people power emanated from. In Arua, some lost their lives like Yasin.
Yeah.
And today we don't have the perpetrators of that murder. And they are known by the security operators.
2018, up to now.
Up to now.
Nobody has been brought to book.
No one has been brought to book.
And do you remember President Museveni said they caned them well in Arua. They were beaten properly.
At least for...
They were beaten properly. That's
at least for the big NRM dogs that have been murdered, may their souls rest in peace, because they have died on duty. They have had suspects. But for Yasin, no suspect. For the November murders, no suspect.
And we're talking about those big, because there are those small ones, the people that are not even known, the young people who have been tortured in these torture houses.
Safe houses.
The safe houses. I call them the torture houses because there's nothing safe about
Today, Kakwanza is a victim, actually.
Apparently.
Currently, he is. Because Kakwanza yesterday was taken to his home in Uganda. I don't know the connection between that two, because he was arrested from his home in Chisasi, but they choose to drive him to Iganga to go and carry out a search. It's absurd that Kakwanza is vomiting blood. All his underwears were filled with pus and blood. Jesus. That's the nation we are in. And what Human Rights Commission can do is to come out and say, hey, Muba Farida, you're the people
who are spreading fake news.
Spreading false news.
And tarnishing the name of the security.
Can I say that we have lost the track as a nation?
Yeah, we lost it some years ago.
So, once we lose the track, we are defeated by the agenda. I do not see the essence as to why we continue to hold these agencies. The Human Rights Commission, the various embassies in the country that cannot come out to bring the culprits of human rights violations to book.
So what are we going to do to get back on track, and what are the responsible people that should really stand up and do it?
And maybe before he answers that from a general perspective, you want the foreign embassies or the people who are not of your country to come and stand for you. What are the people doing themselves? It is the responsibility of me and you and everybody who's watching us today. Well,
when you look at some of these agencies like the Human Rights Commission, like the Human Rights Commission, talk about the Office of Leader of Opposition in Parliament, talk about the various government
committees,
the committees themselves, they are funded by foreign bodies. Meaning these foreign bodies are aiding
that is the least they
the
can do.
Human rights violations.
They're showing you.
If they cannot come out and check Mr. Museveni and his government against human rights violation, today the US Embassy that is funding a number of activities of the British Commission or the UN agencies that are working with Ugandan, with the Ugandan government cannot come out and tell President Museveni, if you cannot give us perpetrators, then please produce suspects to these murders. Then I think we are in a state of emergency for our rights.
But you see
we are helpless because of the intimidation.
Yes.
If Kakwanza does not have one nail in one of his feet, and he continuously sustains and he says no, because this is not the first time people like Kakwanza are arrested.
And it is not the first time he's being arrested, Antonio.
It's the third time, by
It
the
is
way.
the third time.
He has not given up.
Yeah, everyone he produces a book, they will go for him.
He has not given up. My good friend Stella Nyazi, she has as well not given up.
But you see, Solomon, these are just isolated cases. They're just individuals. It's like you, Solomon, coming here today. How best do we get Ugandans to realize what they are going through? It feels like we are sleeping on the job.
Well, 2022 is a year of effectiveness. Effectiveness and delivery. What we ought to do, because these isolated cases, and it has always been my argument,
yes, sir,
have a number of people looking at them. I can mention Dr. Stella Nyazi today, I can mention Solomon today, I can mention Kakwanza today, but I cannot mention that one diehard of these people that I do not know. So,
it's
emphasis.
Because they had on social media, it's where they're doing
their
work. Yeah, Stanyas, you're doing it the right way.
Well, the mods can be in all ways. Kakwanza did not go to the military barracks. He has always authored books.
His pen.
Professor Kanyeihamba.
He believes the pen is stronger than the sword, which is true.
Professor Kanyeihamba has been, actually he's a diplomat. He has never held a stone to throw at President Museveni. But on 2 occasions, he has been put into a safe house. A safe house. You do not need to be on ground. You need to do whatever you can do where you are. We as people that have actually gained the platform, 2022 is a year of grassroots combing.
What do you mean by that?
Mass mobilization, sensitization, and promoting awareness. That's 2022. And before 2022, we must have an agenda.
Before 2022 ends?
Before 2022 ends, we must have an agenda on promoting, protecting, and defending human rights. Because we are under siege, and no amount of intimidation should actually be putting us off.
But it's not intimidation, by the way, just for clarity. These people beat, these people torture, these people will beat you.
All that is intended to scare you, to intimidate you. Myself, I'm a victim of brutality. I've gone on life support before. I think that was October 2020. And my crime was to ask Uganda police why they brutalize Ugandans. Together with colleagues, Nana Mwafrika and Prosper and others. Our crime was to come out and ask the Ministry of Internal Affairs to check their agency, Uganda Police. Because on so many occasions during the lockdown, Ugandans were beaten like animals.
Still being.
A woman was murdered in Hoima. And we called by then, I think, the Naguru acting chairperson, I don't know if she still is, was Madame Logose. We called on her and told her, why are you keeping all these files? Are you trying to run a documentary? Because that can also be an agenda of the Uganda Human Rights Commission without us knowing. And she told us, we cannot act because we don't have a chairperson.
By then?
Yeah, by then they didn't.
We have to compile all these files
and wait
so that,
for
so
the
that
dead
when the chairman comes
in,
he starts making a follow-up, or she starts making a follow-up. it's disappointing and a dismay that when the chairperson comes, the chairperson instead does not begin with the backlog or the pile on desk. He begins by protecting the perpetrators, which is already on record, because you don't need to go into my file to investigate or to know that Farida slapped me. We watch news. We watched what happened in Hoima when a lady and a man was shot.
Yeah.
We watched it.
I'm saying, you were talking about the lady that was murdered. That was 2 years ago, let me say. I want to inform you that in just this last week, we have lost 2 people. We lost a woman who died on the 31st, who was shot, a 15-year-old girl.
Yeah.
She's not even a woman. 15-year-old girl who was shot by OC Caleb Asimwe. There is another Asimwe who shot someone yesterday, as I'm speaking, another female. Another policeman called OC. He's not an OC, I think he's called Asimwe. He's also called Asimwe. So we are still having the very same things we were fighting for 2 years ago. They're happening yesterday.
Well, that is what I'm trying to tell you. That we hoped, we were all filled with hope, jubilation, that yeah, the body, the agency that shall breathe life to the dead Chapter 4 of the Constitutional Republic of Uganda, human rights, has come into place. But with what is happening on ground?
Yes, sir.
Because some of these things, Human Rights Commission, like they came out when the 14-year-old boy was shot during the general election.
Yeah.
November 18th. To investigate, though they haven't come out to publish a report what came out of the investigation.
And the BBC investigated for them.
And there is a report. If they haven't come out to give us a report, because I'm entitled to, I have a right to access information. This is public information, most especially that threatens my rights. Because I am afraid as a Ugandan, and I need to know what is the status quo. What is Human Rights Commission doing?
Maybe to just, Mr. Nabuyanda, I was laughing sarcastically just to show you that the Human Rights Commission does not need a lot of things. They don't need a lot of reports. BBC did for us an investigation.
Absolutely.
That brought about everybody who was in the murders of November 18th and 19th. They showed you the patrol. They showed you the people that were seated on the patrol. They showed you the angles they shot the people from. They showed you everything. It's just a matter of you saying, you are responsible. You're going to be held to account, and you're going to face your crimes. You
know, the other thing that has brought that is the disunity of human rights defenders. They have been divided, and activists have also been divided by political parties. Because right now activists are on line of political parties. Apart from some of us that stand independent, and others that are opinion bearers. The other problem of this country are the elites. Abeita abasomye. To them, emigo gye babakuba gimala.
Musomero.
Bagiyise mu ssomero. Ne wani eno.
Atokimezi obukulu ku street.
We have a couple of messages that, by the way, are going for you, but I'm going to read them in the second hour.
Actually, to me, it's not a surprise. It's not a surprise, but those are some of the challenges.
They got comfortable with the salary they are getting, and I mean, they don't need anything.
That's very true.
But is this about the
three is the confusion brought in, and the young people.
Yes.
Because I believe the future of this nation, as the feminists believe, is female. The future of this nation are the young people.
We are true.
Wow. 4, the other challenge we are having is fear. Fear.
There's a gentleman who said there is nothing to fear other than fear itself.
But these are key issues that we are facing in this struggle.
Solomon ebukera ku machango okoze activism wo peaceful nani violent ne bakwata nokomawo wenyera nange yayina zero yayina that ama akagenda ngambo wayi olamu bwe bugagga
olaba solo bamukwata mu bwe bati
olaba bamukwata mu bulamu bwe bugagga entabiri emabega.
You know three things.
Yes, sir.
That have happened before. We need to effect mobilization, because if we come 1, 2, 3,
it is easy for them to get you and
it is easy because
for
for us three police patrols, which actually I think they were around 30 police officers or 40, if I might remember, came to arrest 3 human rights defenders who had come with placards on the national constitution to read to the Minister of Internal Affairs, to ask him, why are you doing the contrary to this? I'll give another scenario where people have come out to ask for food, to give out food.
Yes.
And they have been given a memory. Kakapchino, the likes of Zake, and others. If we effect mobilization in 2020 and actually strategize to draw networks from villages to the urban centers, and we do not have to come 3 people once a human right is violated.
Yes.
But we have to come in thousands and numbers. Police officers are as worse than I am. Police officers sleep hungry as I do. Police officers cannot speak the truth because they fear, as I do. They are not any different. So if we come in numbers that can overwhelm them, they will actually have no reason as to why they should brutalize us.
Okay. 2
things happen that Malcolm X suggests.
We are going to start with what Malcolm X suggests, because my producer is telling me we have to go in for a short commercial break. That is where we're going to start from. And maybe to just mention something, this gentleman called Tumusime Kato from Barara says, but I guess you people should not over-exaggerate the 2020-21 human rights violations, as if you did not witness the 2001, 2006, 2011 and 2016 human rights violation that led to death of many innocent Ugandans, and nothing has been done to get justice for the extrajudicial killings. We should clearly state that the Electoral Commission, the electoral process and period in Uganda is the most violent and characterized by extrajudicial killings, torture, and human rights abuses. Thank you so much to Musime Kato from Bara. That is where we're going to start from in the next hour of the show. My name is Karuhanga. I am with a human rights defender, Mr. Nabuyanda John Solomon, and of course the Princess of Bunyoro, Miss Farida Bikobede. We're going for a short commercial break. When we come back, we talk about the defeat of President Museveni, and of course, he was talking about Malcolm X, and many, many of your comments. I'll be reading them in the next hour of the show. Good morning.
Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Are you guys ready? Okay, let's serve Uganda. As promised, we deliver. We are redefining the social media narrative, asking tough questions and holding your leaders accountable. We are non-partisan and break down having a conversation with Uganda.
We are the Mighty Drive. We hold debates that give you viable solutions. We bring to you people that Ivora is wanted to listen to. We are gender sensitive and give space to the unheard voices. Not forgetting the quote of the day.
We are live on our social media platforms, The Alternative Uganda on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter from Monday to Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Don't miss the debate behind the wheels and studios.
I am Edgar Matthew Karuhanga
and Princess Luwe Delidian.
Expect in-depth analysis, credible, factual and authentic information. We are the Alternative Dig Talk.
Real issues, real talk.
Hey Ugandans, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Dewa Kiki, the Deputy Defense Spokesperson and actually the Deputy Spokesperson for the Uganda People's Defense Forces. I was hosted on Alternative Dig Talk. I encourage all Ugandans that this is the way to go. Always watch, participate, give your views and ask questions on Alternative Dig Talk. Dig Talk, the way to go.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Solomon was telling me that Museveni should just put away elections and he starts to do selections. I would be like, okay, Farida kusinzira wenda bye used to be the MP of Jinja. Ate gwe Rogers Turiahabwe osobola mbale. You are the MP. Tujewo elections to finesse elections. Osanga na Afrikale tunafuna koko before. Nenga it is the second hour of the Mighty Drive. Tugenda dala paka sawa sata isla Solomon and Edgar in the studios. Tugenda kubanga ata in our second hour tuogera katabo akomukulu Professor Dr. G.W Kanyeihamba, the defeat of President Museveni. Tujja kubanga ndoza tukamaliriza olunaku lwa leero. Naye tugendedde mu kuwummulamuko Solomon abadde atugamba Malcolm X yagamba ki?
Well, two things happened in peaceful protests and demonstrations. When the state retaliates with violence, a nation either runs out of bullets or citizens. So because
people have invested.
The bullets will stay.
Budget budget ya Uganda. Security etwala ekifu kinene etwala percentage.
Naye tebabigula. Tebabigula.
Ate yo information indala.
They don't. This is what the IGG should be coming to give us a report on expenditures and proof. Because the report can be biased according to who authors the report.
Yes.
The IGG, on top of her life audits that are not going to help this country.
The President Museveni specifically said it is not going to work. At least the thieves who steal invest here.
Basically, that is the president trying to protect the corrupt in power. The agenda of President Museveni in ensuring that Ugandans, because leadership and the politics at that particular time in a nation play a very fundamental role in the human beings or the citizens or natives in accessing their rights. I cannot have equal rights where there is no incentives or policies to effect that. I cannot have better health, I cannot access better health as it is my right, or I cannot access better education, where the policies dictate otherwise. And this all is a determination of the policymakers who are in power, in parliament. Politicians, most of the cases today, I'm very sure if I had a panelist here who is from the opposition, he would always refer to government. But the truth is, government is in three arms. The executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. And the legislature comprises both opposition
and ruling party.
And the ruling party. Actually, in Uganda, we don't have a political party, we have a movement. So, whether with or without the opposition excluding themselves, because most of the cases, the opposition people have been isolating themselves, excluding themselves.
No, they have been
from the policies made by the legislature.
It feels like they have been, okay, you can also not, you can justify, because they are few in numbers.
You know what happened in, during, actually it is discussed by Professor Kanyeihamba, as we are going to be discussing this book. It is discussed in one of his books called In the Name of God, where they chose to challenge the competency and constitutionality of the then acting Chief Justice, Stephen Kavuma, from being reappointed. You realize that the opposition boycotted the meeting. Kadaga's hands were tied by technicality. She didn't have quorum. So procedure was actually, procedure beat out everything. In the legislature, I believe that they can be outpowered in numbers, but they can boycott if they truly are for the struggle, as they say. They should be in position to copy and paste what happened during Kavuma's vetting. They should boycott.
But they will tell you they have tried to boycott. They have tried. Remember 2017 when they tried to fight, the age limit bill. Remember what happened? Soldiers stormed Parliament. And even up to now, nothing has been said
didn't boycott. They did boycott. They remained. And when policies come out today, we don't say that NRM Parliament has passed policies. We say Parliament
exactly.
has passed this bill. But if they boycotted and they are out, if they are not in for allowances.
Because when it comes to the money, they are all
sitting
united.
Allowance.
Yes, they are all united on money, but on issues that are affecting Ugandans, like human rights violations today, corruption and
united
others.
On money.
They are not united.
It's what took most of them to Parliament.
So,
money.
Definitely. So in a state where we have lost it all, not only by the head of state, because we can name call Museveni, we can
because the opposition is not united. Some might decide to boycott, others will remain.
Well, one thing unites us all.
Money.
Human rights.
In Parliament, it's money.
In Parliament, it's money.
But one thing that really should unite us.
That should unite us is human rights. If the politics have failed us for now over 20 years, we should divert and invest all our time
and
energies into human rights activism. Because human rights covers a broad aspect that runs political, economic, and social. At least that can unite us. But I go back to conclude my point. If really members of parliament on the opposition boycotted all procedures and take vows that I will not sit anymore in any unconstitutional and illegal procedures, or in any policies that are going to affect Ugandans, we would be having NRM policies, not parliamentary policies. Because the policies actually shall not pass because there will be no quorum.
Okay, maybe you can on Agambye English is Museveni or much asking for us abatasoma. So mukulu wango jagezako okudda mulwe wa feruno olulyanaka. Then maybe njaga tusoke twogereko ku mukulu kye yagambye ono. Yagambye aleka ku exaggeratinga violations omukulu Katoto Musima okuvembara nti ebyaliwo mu 2022 ne 2023 yes abantu abakunukiza batugamba 5 be bafa mulage tugamba yafuna cases esuka mu 1013 ez'amasasi during that time n'ekyo tukyakyeetooloola kute tuli sure agambye byaliwo in 2001 which is true 2001 we lost a lot of lives 2006 we lost lives 2011 we might have not lost but that's somewhere human rights violations were typically there 2016 they were there 2021 you saw what happened.
Well,
things are recurring.
I was laughing when my brother Kyagulanyi brought up a slogan or a motto, tubalabise. Tubalabise.
Show what they are doing.
Museveni taswala.
Naye tubalabisa batwala obulamu bw'abaana baffe.
Anti kyenkugambye Museveni taswala.
Yaswala dda.
Kuva 1998 we bamukuba akalulu.
Nete bakabba ye just for your point of information bakabba mulala ye yagenda mu nsiko okulwana. Well.
Naye era kisigala nti baali babbi.
Nenga tebabba ye. It's okay. It's like hacking Farida. George has not just money here for I want people to actually know.
Yeah, actually, it was a very big margin, but it's him that went to the bush.
Yes, that's the thing.
So to him, Taswala, and to satisfy his shame, he keeps on doing the same things. Neighbor na Uganda, beba Taswala. We Ugandans, fa betaaga okulabisibwa. Tulabise Human Rights Commission, tulabise embassies, tulabise ebitongole NGOs ez'enjawulo ezigamba mulwanirira ddembe lyaffe.
Naye nga bali ku kasente balya.
Tulabise bannayuganda abali comfortable mu status quo. Abakozesa office obubi. Tubalabise kuba Museveni ye takyakola ki?
Takyaswala.
Yaswala n'aswaluka dda.
Ndizo tulabise ne ba MPs bano kubanga be bapasika policies omukulu.
Ne ba MP nabo. Because for them omulimu gwabwe oversight and part of the policies or work they are overseeing policies zachi za state mwezili bakalondozi okitegera. So at the end of the day,
yes sir,
naming and shaming should not only be for the state.
Tukole name shaming. Ediga Mafyuka Ruhango okola mu office bweti walya sente zaffe bweziti ez'omuyiwa omusolo tukusaba tuwe accountability.
Kyekyo. Kuba regime teswala. The likes of Jim Muhwezi, the likes of Kutesa, the likes of Byandala, today are still in power.
That's the thing. That's the thing.
So naming and shaming the regime is not going to help Ugandans.
We should go for the people themselves.
We should go for the people, for Ugandans. Febe nyini. Inti Farida is comfortable. No kubeddagala mu ddwaliro ly'egindi. Why?
Because you've not spoken.
Toyogedde. Eno comfort yetusibye mu busibe.
This gentleman says, Mr. Tumuhimbi Senoman, that when you raise this issue, they will call you a mole. He continues to say, in addition, I think Ugandans who speak volumes, Ugandans are people who speak volumes, but action is zero.
Action zero. You see, that has come.
How do we bring that zero from to 100?
You see how
at least to even 50.
Nabagambye mobilization etali yakwelabisa yegenda tukolera inti Nabuyanda is sitting in a chapati stall in Machindi. Or in Boziga, or in Chisasi, or in Mutungo, or in Nakapiripirit, or in Arua.
Yes.
Arua. Nabuyanda is preaching the gospel. The gospel of liberation from human rights violations is what is going to help us. So, how we are reaping that from zero is because human rights activism or human rights defense has been limited to a section of people. People need to access literature of talking about their rights. People, such programs, Digitalk should have a human rights program, should have where someone discusses the law. Rights is until we violate the educational programs. And funders to the nation, like the UN British Council, should not be funding the oppressive policies of the state. They should come and fund such educational programs.
Okay, Mr. Nabuyanda, I want us to talk about this comment, then we delve into the book. There's this lady, Nachrio Hasifa. She says no human right for Uganda. It's human rights of Museveni, not for Ugandans. The problem is Museveni because the man we are in danger due to that man. Because he is a terrorist. Now he calls Museveni, this lady calls Museveni a terrorist. Then she also says, the problem is Museveni, no one else. Mazima, Teri any human rights commission in Uganda. Teddy Human Rights Commission. Maybe kansoke njogereko n'omukulu ono tumuhimise yagambe how I wish you people put in action what they say. If you listen into your guest, guys, you can think that Museveni is failing seconds from now. Falling. Yeah, not failing by the falling seconds from now. Not sure about him in brackets your guest, but trust me, young people are not reliable. Majority are simply compromised. They are Kigati people of Mfunirawa blood wange. Otherwise, I like this verbal determination for now, and I and others await action too. Omukulu agambe mumulekerawo okwogera ate nagamba abavubuka there is another perspective, the perspective of money.
You see, that is what I've told you. Well, I've told you, and actually Tumuhimbise should not be waiting or should not be sitting back to await action, because we are all like Kakwanza, like the activists have come up with to speak up. We are all like them. Police officers sleep hungry. Their children stop in senior 4 to go and join police because they have no hope. Their hope is dead in this regime. Their rights have been grossly violated, that they hold no future prospect. But police is the future. Secondly, I want to note that we invite people like Tumuhimbise and others to join in this struggle to protect and defend human rights in Uganda, and end this madness we are in and confusion.
Okay, allow me say thank you so much for watching the Mighty Drive show. It is 17 minutes past 8 a.m. We still have a human rights defender in studios, Mr. Nabuyanda John Solomon, and of course Farida Bikobere. We are talking about the state of human rights in 2021, and of course some of the baggage of 2021 is delving into 2022, definitely, because we are still seeing policemen who are killing innocent Ugandans, shooting at them, and nothing is being done about them. Ladies and gentlemen, what next for this country? And it's now time for us to talk about the defeat of Museven. This book was authored by one of the great professors that the land has had in this life. He's a celebrated writer, an author, a judge, and of course a gentleman who has done his part in building the nation. He's called Mr. George Wilson, Professor. Why do I call him even Mr.? Professor, Dr. George Wilson Kanyeihamba. He authored this book, and in studios we have Mr. Solomon, who is going to tell us what is the defeat of President Museveni all about.
Well, when you read on your about the book behind there,
yes,
it says, I have known and worked with President Museveni since the 1980s. Later, I come to know him as a fellow Munyachigezi, as he described in the publication of the Clans and Totems of Banyachigezi, in which was authored by Ishmael B.K. Kabananuche, where he is described on page 239 as a prominent Munyachigezi. As a young man, He worked tirelessly hard and exhibited the principles of the Banyachigezi culture, namely royalty and hard work, qualities President Museveni exhibited exceeding the well in the first decade of his presidency of the Republic of Uganda. The central theme of his ascendance to power was encapsulated in his first political statement to Uganda, that his was not mere change of guards, but a fundamental change. One of his earliest policies was to wage war against corruption. This book is about his miserable failure to defeat corruption in Uganda, with disastrous results affecting the country. Uganda people's liberty, human rights, trusts in government, and dissatisfaction is almost every service or responsibility expected of government.
Yes.
So,
Mr.
Tibohabura. And he confesses, Mwami Museveni, it is reported, Tanywa Mwenge. So I don't think he described in that book that Professor Kanyeihamba is bringing to our attention, called Clans and Totems, that I think every Ugandan, on top of this book called The Defense of President Museveni, should also have on his shelf. Not for decoration.
Just to inform you, Ugandans have failed to adapt the culture of reading. I don't know why.
But I'm happy that we are having such an engagement, that they can't read, but they can watch.
They can listen.
Yeah, they like to watch. And
they can listen. That is why I will have an emphasis that funders funding failed projects or a defeated regime like that of President Museveni should be shifting their funds to educational programs where we have the public.
Inform people.
Informing people. And Ugandans as well-wishers who have the capacity should as well be shifting some of their resources to such programs for Ugandans to benefit.
Okay.
Because today they are well, but tomorrow they cannot ascertain the future of their offsprings. But if we go back to the book,
yes.
In the previous show we had looked at three things. We looked at who exactly is President Museveni. We as well, the chapter is on page 65. What exactly is YK Museveni? Is YK Museveni. And YK Museveni is described right from, in a scientific way. This is not a manufactured description. These are factual things that have happened. And he has been party to them. Yes. And right from his days as a student at Makerere of political science to the days of who he is from YK Museveni. Because this book gives us an account of who exactly is President Museveni. And how are they connected? YK Museveni and YK Museveni Tibuhabura, that he chooses to identify himself in 2020.
After 35 years in power.
After 35 years in power. And the NRM chooses to say, we do not need a change in personality, but we need a change in credentials.
The person is the same.
And that's a dynamic, by the way, we should accept. At least some of the changes we had in the 2021 general elections, President Museveni came in a new format, knowing who we are going to be dealing with.
It's true.
Inti Tibuhabura. Tagenda kuwabulwa.
Tawabulwa.
Among other things, he has been defeated. So basically, we also looked at the unacceptable face of the NRM party. That I think actually we should begin there.
What is this face you're talking about, sir?
let's have a trail through it. Students of politics are familiar with the saying that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Many people think that that is what, page 84. Many people think that that is what Museveni meant in 1986 when he made his maiden speech at Addis Ababa summit. He was still remembering it when he castigated me for saying that ordinary people play only a small part in governance of a society. However, since then, a lot of water has gone under the Uganda political bridge. The president has gained absolute power under the NRM party flag. President Museveni exercises that power absolutely. Anyone standing in his way, he's branded an enemy and he's liable to be crushed in the bargain. The policies of NRM party, however misguided or damaging, are the ultra and omega imperatives of governance in Uganda. Before 1986 and since then, President Museveni and NRM leadership have given lip service to the law, to the rule of law, democracy, transparency, and accountability. In practice, however, they have done the reverse and what is worse deliberately. When I was a schoolboy, lying was a vice, but under the NRM party, it is a virtue. In free and democratic societies, both the rulers and the governed are under the law. Under the NRM political party, governance is by law, and the ruling party and its leadership are not a servant of anyone. They exist and operate for the benefit largely for their leaders and supporters. Any benefits which fall out and assist society are accidental and incidental. Since coming into power, President Museveni has condemned the evils of corruption and sectarianism. On the other hand, the structure and modus operandi and survival of the NRM party government depend largely on corruption, nepotism, and extrajudicial methods of work. The best example of this was reported in the government's newspaper New Vision of 15th December 2021 on page 6. The paper headlines, Otafire, envoy clash over human rights. The envoy was deeply concerned with the corrupt behavior and act of the Uganda police, widely reported both the national and international media that occurred in November 2020. General Otafire is reported to have clashed with the envoy of the European states, which are in partnership with Uganda to rehabilitate and improve security conditions in the country. The envoy was deeply concerned and upset by the criminality of the police. On the other hand, Honorable Kahinda Otafire defended the police for the same behavior and acts which he thinks were correct and commendable. The country has not forgotten that sometime earlier in the year, a retired judge was witnessed by the same media in distress pleading for the repayment of the money Kahinda Otafire had taken from the judge. The money had been generously paid in check formed by the government of Uganda and handed over to Honorable Otafire to pass on to the judge. The minister, believing wrongly that the judge would not recover from his illness, appropriated the same check for his personal gain. The judiciary and the bank are yet to explain how he managed to convert the check into cash when it was already written in the names of the judge who had been permitted to go abroad for treatment. The judge demanded his money back. The general protested and lied that he owed nothing to the judge. There was outrage and outcry throughout the country about the blatant embezzlement and deception by the general, a member of NRM and a senior cabinet minister. Fearing more repercussions, the minister repaid a fraction of the money he owes the judge directly into the judge's bank account, but was too ashamed to brief the affected judge. Yet the president has not only retained him as
a
minister responsible for the police, the general is still well trusted to be a spokesperson on international relations. Is it really necessary to show any further evidence in support of inevitable conclusion that Museveni has been badly defeated in the war of corruption? Under Uganda historical traditions and incidents of empirical history, the knowledge that heads of institution and religious leaders, such as the president, the chief justice, cabinet ministers, would act and behave honestly and with integrity, have been diluted or have diminished to the extent that we have witnessed today a cleric, president and chief justice telling lies. We have known ministers robbing or stealing other people's money but staying in their position of power. While discussing presidential term limits with the 6th new parliament, Professor Joe Oloka Onyango appreciated the 2 terms of 5 years each fixed for Ugandan's president by the makers of the 1995 Constitution as scientific and ideal. He contended that for any president to stay in power for another 5 years would yield nothing new and would be likely to repeat previously experience without any new benefits at all. Should such incumbent stay any longer than that period, the results would show diminished returns. Should that same leader overstay in office, this would result in that leader becoming liability to the nation. The NRM and its leadership have been governing Uganda continuously since 1986. All indications are that Museveni and his party are now a liability to the nation of Uganda. Should they continue without change, it will be a disaster to Uganda. When he first became president, President Museveni and the policies he presented were way attractive and acceptable to the country as a whole. Today, he is no longer believed, nor are his policies acceptable. Every year since the 1980s, President Museveni has pledged to stamp out corruption and abuse of office. However, because of his contradictory utterances and his contradictory utterances and acts, few Ugandans believe in him anymore. What is worse, it seems as if he himself doesn't believe or care anymore. For instance, on a number of public functions when President Museveni was seriously addressing the nation on important policies of state, the media often reported that senior ministers leading cadres went to sleep during his public address. There was no telling off or disciplining of the culprits. In fact, the president is reported to have remarked at one time that I did not mind as long as those people vote the right way after they woke up from slumber lands. On 23rd November 2021, the government newspaper New Vision headlined 1,000 civil servants apply to reduce ages. The headline is followed by a story in which public servants have and continue to apply to have their ages revised downwards so as to justify their retention in public service beyond their actual legal birthdays. This practice constitutes massive forgery. Under the NRM party rule of today, the story appears normal and doesn't give cause for concern. There is a precedent for this. Several years ago, as a judge of the Court of Appeal approached retiring age of 70 years, an idea was fronted that he was still energetic and should continue serving and he should be promoted to the Supreme Court. The highest court of appeal in Uganda, according to the Uganda Constitution, the retiring age of the judges of either court is the same 70 years. The retiring judge concerned wrote to the relevant authority, falsely claiming that he was 4 years younger than was previously claimed and therefore was qualified to be promoted to the Supreme Court. Fortunately, the Uganda Judicial Service Commission didn't believe this lie, and he wasn't promoted, nor was he punished for his lie. At the beginning of every term, President Museveni repeats his promise to fight corruption. In reality, corruption and abuse of office, which include torture, have increased beyond acceptable levels under the NRM party rule. The president seems to wallow in the fashion. He is on record for having said that the police are the most corrupt institution in Uganda, yet he appointed and retains a minister responsible for the police who is well known for having taken a large sum of money from a disabled patient. This was not all. The minister, having lied publicly, eventually freely admitted the commission of the crime, but the president has kept silent and the minister has remained in office. On the other hand, there is chaos today surrounding the NRM party government. The party is divided on the right to bail. The president and the chief justice are at loggerheads with regards to presumption of innocence and the powers of the judiciary versus those of the president in the protection of human rights. Recently, the Prime Minister of Uganda, who is also the leader of government business, visited the office of the Inspector General of Government and stated that she has discovered that senior officials in that inspectorate are corrupt and should be weeded out. Later, the Inspector General of Government, Betty Kamya, herself addressed a conference meeting at Kakwanza, the NRM party training headquarters, and shocked Ugandans with revelation that the office of the Prime Minister of Uganda was a den of thieves. Uganda is the only country we know in the world where property, and especially land, is advertised with a notice that this property of this land is not for sale. Following the results of the general elections 2021, President Museveni said that the runners-up, presidential candidate Honorable Kyagulanyi Robert Sentamu, had massively rigged those elections. To add fuel to the fire, Justice Byabakama, the chairman of the Uganda Electoral Commission, lamented that he had terminated the service of some 80 Electoral Commission officers and employees for committing electoral offences in these same elections. In conclusion, with all these events, chaos, crimes, illegalities and indifferences on the part of their rulers, Ugandans asked themselves what to do next. In my recent publication, Challenging Presidential Elections, I stated that Museveni must retire this term, which commenced in February 2021. In 2021 general elections, the biggest region in Uganda, namely the Buganda Kingdom, massively rejected the rule of NRM and President Museveni. This rejection was repeated in much of the eastern region and parts of northern and western Uganda. Come next term in 2026, President Museveni, if he has not retired then, will be in his 80s. The average age of most Ugandans will be in 20s or younger, which is very true. That's where our chapter is ending. The unacceptable face of the NRM party. And with scientific justification or illustrations that are brought out in this book called The Defeat of President Museveni. You have been asking, what is the defeat of President Museveni about? And in the recent show where we had a reading on the first part 1 of this book, President Museveni declared a war against corruption.
Yes, he did.
He declares the war every term. I don't know.
And he did
But in
the
1986,
anti-corruption work.
In 1986, it was his first time.
His first declaration.
His first declaration. Maybe he changes dynamics. Like he has changed Operation Shuja from Uganda to Somalia and Congo. So in 1986, he declares war. And he's actually saying that one of the major things he's going to begin with is to fight corruption. Part of the strategies they choose to adopt as scientifically illustrated in this book, that every Ugandan needs to acquire and have a grasp, have a reading, an understanding, as we are having a reading on this particular show, is that President Museveni, two of them was Uganda Airlines to always be in the air, in the sky, flying. But all these strategies, all the good policies have been crippled by corruption. By corruption. And when you're to read that quote on page 99, there are two quotes. Where there is a will, corruption shall surely be defeated. By Professor Dr. G.W. Kanyeihamba. And another description of the NRM party. All cats have 4 legs. My dog has 4 legs. Therefore, my dog is a cat. Museveni came to fight corruption. But his modus operandi is not any different from the UPC. Eyafana eyasika bafaanagana. Tewali njawulo. Pozi ono kyabasinzaako nti ye mukwata mundu. So the major challenge to the NRM regime is corruption. And on many occasions, they have acknowledged. The Honorable Betty Kamya, the IGG, comes out to say, corruption is evident. And we are going to start to audit the lifestyles of these people. The Prime Minister also acknowledges that public offices are crippled because of corruption. Museveni himself comes out on many occasions by the fact that he declares war to fight corruption. He acknowledges that corruption is there. Yes. But this time round he has changed dynamics. Not to fight corruption, but to condone corruption by protecting the corrupt and keeping the corrupt
because
in
they
power.
are keeping the money in the country.
And even just to add, Ms. Mulyangonja, before leaving the IGG office and having her disagreements with the president, is that she always lamented and remarked that every time I do my job, the people who are stealing are always behind your back. It comes back to you, and when I come to you, I cannot. Well, investigate you, arrest you.
That is why on this page actually, it is. I think it was on the second paragraph of that particular chapter, but on page 85, when it seems like the president does not care anymore because corruption is occurring, honesty is not there. The likes of there is no transparency and accountability in the regime. Look at the scenario brought out in this book. It's a very scientific scenario.
Yes.
Where Kahinda Otafire chooses to divert a check in the names
of George Wilson
Kanyeihamba. And to his personal gain. We do not know how, because the check is already in the names of G.W Kanyeihamba.
You wonder how another person, who is not their next of kin,
or their father, or a close or immediate relative, diverts the check. And this has been brought to the notice of the president. He has not come out to discipline Kahinda Otafire, but to reward him with a ministerial post. Kahinda Otafire father clashes with international bodies on human rights. But the president continuously says, wow, you're the best man
for the job
to be international relations spokesperson of the nation. So let us send you there. So the analogy this plays actually brings it to our attention that it is a failed project to fight corruption by the NRM. And the solution is us to talk about, or is Mr. Museveni to accept the defeat. And entertain the succession talk.
Before
2026 comes, we shouldn't be preparing for an election. We should be preparing for a transitional function. And not to turn the nation into an oligarchy.
We are not going to be preparing for an election, preparing for transition. That means because the only way because
well, what I meant by a transitional function is there is only one factor here.
Elections.
President Museveni. All unanimous decisions we've seen in courts, it is Museveni putting on the wig and robing as a judge. The Electoral Commission itself, it is President Museveni. He has the power to appoint and dismiss the EC chairperson. And cadres have been placed in these offices. So if he is out and he says, really, I have run a good race and I have done my part. Thank you, Ugandans, for taking care of me for 30 or 40 or so years.
It will be 40 years.
Because tubanja Museveni nyumba jasulamu entambula yengwe zayambala, it is Ugandans paying that at a cost. So it is so fundamental that Museveni gave us that gift this year. This year. Yeah.
Nga kirabikanga atagenda bawa kirabe ekyo.
Ekiriwa.
Ekyo kuva mu buyinza we mutyonga just a vow, it's going to be very, very impossible.
Then we are ready as young people, because I love actually the last paragraph here. On page 80, where come next term in 2026, President Museveni, if he has not retired then, will be in his 80s. The average age of most Ugandans will be in 20s or young people. We are the majority right now, and we shall still be the majority in 2026. So it is so fundamental that we as young people partook the mantle to pursue this and achieve this. It is absurd that the institutions of learning are dead, but they need to wake up. We need to get into a thinking camp as student leaders. We need to get in the same thinking camp as various youth group leaders to discuss the succession of President Museveni.
So, Solomon, many people have talked about this as we come to the end of the show, because I'm seeing we have like 4 minutes to 5 to be ending the show. We have seen many people talk about ousting President Museveni and maybe taking power or maybe change of guard, right? But how do we do this without having people lose their lives, without violence, without mayhem, without controversy? Because it feels like the only way that this gentleman is willing to leave is if he is forced out of office. And the only way you can force anybody out of office is through forcing, and forcing needs a use of force.
Which force?
Is violent.
Well, I have 3 pages here. I'm going to answer that question. Museveni has indirectly but freely admitted that he lost the war on corruption. He confessed that under his rule, the police are the most corrupt institution in Uganda. Yet in the war against corruption, the police are the most and important weapon to use in that war.
Yes.
The heads of the two most important war battalions against corruption, the IGG and the Prime Minister, have freely admitted that their respective departments are severely crippled by corruption. They have therefore lost the war. This phenomenon applies equally to the President's office, where President Museveni is the boss. Kanuna Kalema, the anti-corruption commander in the President's office, has spilled her frustrations in a television interview recently. This is therefore the end of Museveni's agenda. He has truly lost the war. He has to go now. In consequence, the NRM party position is no longer be attainable. Any stay in office or power hereafter by the same leaders or party will spell disaster for Uganda and its people. It is therefore now imperative that Ugandans surface for the shadow of fear and seriously debate and resolve succession to President Museveni before it is too late, and it should be done now. Therefore, is no comparing evidence that the Muhoozi project exists, nor is President Museveni shopping publicly for his successor. In fact, he is on record as having said that political succession in Uganda is not for him or other leaders, but the role of Ugandans themselves.
Yeah, he has always
I hope I'm answering you. When presidential elections are due, again President Museveni will be in his 80s. It is therefore fit and proper to debate his succession, not tomorrow or the day after, but today. Ugandans should not fear or be frightened from discussing succession to President Museveni, nor. Now, I believe that the overwhelming majority of Ugandans believe that he has done a good job, which is very true, for this country, despite the obvious obstacles and problems he encountered since he became president in 1986. I also believe that most Ugandans believe that President Museveni should and must retire in this term 2021 to 2026, and the earlier the better, for Yoweri Kaguta Tibuhaburwa Museveni, his family, and for Uganda in particular. Incidentally, when you believe no explanation is necessary, but in the case of Museveni, Ugandans have many reasons for wanting him to leave now, as narrated in this book. Before both were forced out of office, the late Robert Mugabe of Zimbabwe and the late Dr. Kamuzu Banda of Malawi, and discouraged, if not prohibited, any talk about their successor, possibly of succession.
I'm going to stop you because of time, Mr. Nabuyanda, but I want you to just give us 1 minute of maybe an understanding of what that statement actually means in terms of President Museveni leaving power.
Well, you asked me a question. You asked me a question.
Yeah. How do we get
where people are not dying?
violence?
Where people are not dying, and our history is reaffirmed in the Constitution, 1995 Constitution, in the preamble. Our history was turbulent, political assassinations and what. Yes. So the role, and President Museveni himself has acknowledged it, basing on this particular chapter we have been discussing or reading, which is the succession of President Museveni. President Museveni says the role of who leads Ugandans is the role of Ugandans.
To know who leads them.
To know who leads them and to decide who leads them. And here is an illustration of a third world country like Uganda, of a country with dictators like Kamuzu, Banda, and Robert Mugabe. Yes. And the irony is that these people had persecuted whoever comes out to question when they are leaving power. Like President Museveni is doing it. President Museveni is doing it. But by the will of the people and the practice of the people, the decision made by the people to stand up overwhelmingly to demand their power back.
That is the only thing that we can do.
Mugabe goes. Kamuzu Banda goes. In South Sudan, a 21-year-old, the
22, female, by the way. Female girl in a Muslim and a patriarchal society like
only
Sudan.
21 years with minimal deaths. In Uganda, I told you, it is a fallacy and it is an over-exaggerated appearance that we can run out of citizens. We can run out of citizens.
It's the bullets that will run out.
It's bullets that will run out, because that is if they choose
to bring up the bullets.
To bring up the bullets. But we need to come up, exercise our rights under Article 28, express our discontent in the regime and disappointment in the regime in one voice and one accord, to say enough is enough.
Mr. Nabuyanda, thank you so much for joining us today on the Mighty Drive. Let me give you just 15 seconds. I'll see what I'm going to do in Uganda. oluzungu lubadde lungi
lubadde lungi
lubadde mene waliwo agambye mu comment mbu the English is mene
weewaawo bagamba n'azina obulungi ava mu ddiiro so mbebaza abalabi baffe mwenna ababadde batugoberera ku show eno ey'olwaleero nga njagala okwongera okubagumya mwenna abafiiriddwako abammwe n'abali mu kulumwa abali mu makomera abali mu malwaliro yonna embeera okubaagaliza omwaka omulungi n'okubakwasa Katonda wabula to continue to encourage you to realize your rights.
Yes, sir.
Most especially Article 28, freedom of expression. To stand up and say no and demand Museveni to tell us when is he leaving before 2026.
Okay, we don't know when that gentleman will be leaving before 2026, but one thing I'm sure of, I'm going to be leaving in just a few minutes from now. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching the Mighty Drive Show. My name is Karuhanga Edgar Matthew. Tomorrow, we are having Council Aaron Kiza on this particular seat, and we're going to be talking about various things. What is happening in Mr. Kakwanza's case, and of course, Mr. Luther Ferdinand, who has been in custody from February, and no evidence has been aligned against him, and no justification whatsoever has been put to his being behind bars for the last 12 months. So
no,
tomorrow,
actually there is a justification.
Yes.
There is a justification. Yesterday, the police spokesperson of CID came out and gave a note. I don't know if you were following. Twine.
Yeah, it's Twine.
Is he called Twine?
It's the CMI spokesperson.
Yes, and he has already judged the case. Yes, he told you Kakwanza is because he exercised his right. He doesn't actually realize that. He says Kakwanza has annoyed the first son and the president. So the justification is given, and in the tweet of Muhozi.
So these days, when you annoy the first son and the president, you are going to actually go behind bars.
The presumption is you're guilty.
For annoying the president.
You're guilty, not you're innocent before trial.
Okay, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Let's meet tomorrow. Aaron Kiza will be the gentleman on the set, and Farid and myself and Lillian Luede will be here to make sure we author and usher that discussion for you. So do not miss tomorrow, 7 a.m. Farida Bikobere, it's your turn to shine. You always shine on. You always shine, but shine on today.
It is the 4th day of January. Abatanakola New Year planning bajukiza. Please do it. Atanakola financial plan. Please do it.
Rogers, today how you attacked.
If you've not set your goals for the year, please do.
Yes.
And always remember. Chikubere mulimu bwongo ncho inagolo je wasetinga ojigoberere tumubadde balabe balungi tebwana tetusukawo tusinkane olunaku olwenchi sawe ja kuberemu nga tuline Council Aaron Kiza nga twogera human rights. Have yourself a good day.
Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.